Hello everyone, my name is Simon. I want to tell you a story about how I lost the million my parents left me. Can you imagine the situation that I, as the most responsible guy in the family, was entrusted with such an important task, to take a million and bring it to the appointed place, and I failed that mission miserably. And I wasn't kidding about saying that I was the most responsible guy in the family. Everybody knew that, even my relatives. Anybody could confirm it. I was a better student than my brother Monty, even though he was older than me. I still somehow had a better upbringing. Anyway, the situation was like this. Our parents, or rather my father, had some serious problems. Some of the businessmen he worked with wanted to set him up very badly, and my father was put behind bars. It was very stressful for us. We were all in a state of shock. My father guessed who had done it, so my mother did her best to help him. The only thing Monty and I knew was that we were going to have to give a lot of money, about $1 million, to get my father out. Good thing we had that money. That's a lot of money, but Dad was making good money. Mum had to go to another city for Dad's business. She called me all nervous and asked me to take the suitcase with the money to the address, giving the message. How? $1 million? You can do it, son. Maybe Monty can help. He has another assignment for him, but you have the most important one. I can't come right now, so I need your help. You're the one who's in charge. Can you handle it? Yeah, okay, Mum. I wasn't ready. It's not every day you walk around with that much money in your suitcase, but I had to do it. So I took the suitcase and got into a cab since I didn't know how to drive. Some car pulled up in front of me. After 5 minutes, the driver started talking to me and asked where I was going with the suitcase. I'm going on a business trip. Ah, what kind of business for such a young boy? If you want a tip, please don't talk. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. He was too chatty, and for good reason. At the gas station, he came up to me and asked if I could change my change. I turned my head, then he asked what was in the suitcase. I started to panic, got out the other side of the car, opened the door, and the cab driver chased after me. I clutched the suitcase as hard as I could and ran as fast as I could. I couldn't even turn around to keep from falling. The cab driver turned out to be strange, suspicious of something, and it made me nervous. I ran towards an unfamiliar street and found myself in the middle of a fairground. There were so many people there. I tried to get lost in the crowd. I technically called Monty for help, but he didn't pick up. I found some kind of snack tent and sat in the corner to wait for the cabbie to get out. I sat for around 6 minutes, and after making sure everything was quiet, I poked my head out of the tent. The driver grabbed me by the collar from behind. Where are you going? You didn't even pay for the ride. Show me what's in the suitcase. Leave me alone. The cab driver took me around the corner. You obviously have something interesting in there. You're not trying to call the police. You have frightened eyes, and the suitcase is so interesting. What's in it? Money? How much? Back off! I got really scared, kicked him between the legs, and ran towards the exit. But the cabbie wouldn't let up. Monty didn't pick up the phone, neither did Mum, and I cursed the hell out of them. I ran and wandered over to some abandoned building site, hiding amongst the building materials. The cab driver was still gone, and I thought he had lost sight of me. So I got out and went quietly towards the stairs, and there he met me at the bottom. I rushed upstairs. The sick man followed me. We were on the second floor, and I was standing on the edge. What do you want from me? Get off me! Just give me the suitcase. I'll take a look. When he came closer, I said, Yeah, choke on it. He grabbed the suitcase with his hand, and I turned sharply, and it fell down the second floor. The man landed right on the trash cans and stayed in one piece. I got even more scared and ran the other way. Then I ran out into the crowded place and saw another cab, got in the car and told him to hurry up. It wasn't until a couple of minutes later that I was breathless. After another couple of minutes, the new cab driver took a wrong turn. I began to worry. Where are you going? The cab driver was silent. When I started yelling, he said he was taking a detour. Don't take a detour, stop here. You can't stop here. I said stop. He slowed down, but he didn't stop. Then I opened the door and jumped out of the car. A car was driving towards me and I almost got run over. There was a young girl behind the wheel. I jumped into her car and yelled for her to drive away. She was so scared she did as I said, and we drove away from there. She drove me to the right place. Monty and Mum still didn't answer. I thanked her and wanted to get out, but then she put something hard to my head and told me to sit tight for a while. What's the matter? Shush, baby, give me the suitcase. I slowly held out the suitcase. She took it, but then the first cab driver came up and hit her. She lost consciousness. At that time, I managed to grab the suitcase and get away on the boat that was passing by. We were just on the bridge. It was a miracle I didn't break anything when I jumped in. The cabbie didn't make it in time. I swam to the nearest bus stop and stole some girl's bike. That's when I got the "where's the money" message. I realised that this was the person I was supposed to give the suitcase to. I texted him to meet me in a few minutes near a neighbourhood nearby and drove there. But on the way, I got hit by another cyclist. He apologised, helped me up and left. Only then did I realise I don't have my suitcase anymore. The cyclist, who turned out to be the second cab driver, had it. I didn't understand where these people were coming from, why they knew me, but I had to give the money back. I stole someone's moped on the road. I didn't know how to drive, I just grabbed it, just like in the movies, and then drove off. I got there fast, and on the way I hit that cab driver. While he was lying on the ground with bruises, I grabbed my suitcase and ran towards my destination. There was already a black SUV waiting for me. I handed over the suitcase and was about to leave, but two bodies stood behind me, blocking the way. "What do you want?" "We have to count everything." He got in the car, they put me next to him, and he opened the suitcase, and there were pieces of paper instead of money. I choked. "It wasn't me. There's been some kind of mistake. I don't know how it happened. I just handed it over, and there was supposed to be $1 million. Honestly, don't kill me." The man exhaled and pulled out his gun. There was a noise behind him. Abruptly, the door opened, where two cab drivers, 1 and 2, were standing. I was stunned. One grabbed the guy, the other grabbed me. I yelled for them to let me go, but no one listened. Those two got into a fight. They put me in another car. I tried to run, but it was no use. Finally, the man was put down and the cab driver pulled out the handcuffs. "What?" "We're cops, baby." "What? How come? Who told you that?" "We cooperate with your father. You were good bait. Sorry." What the hell? At this time, I got a call from Monty saying that he would explain everything later, that they weren't picking up the phone with Mum on purpose, and that our father had been set up by people who acted through third parties, and that they managed to find the main instigator, and it turned out to be his sister, our aunt. What? "She's already got our mum with the police, so don't worry, it's okay." "But why me and not you? You're bigger and older than me, and you run faster." "My aunt would never have believed that the money was entrusted to me, and you're the one in charge here. I had no doubt that you could handle it." "Are you kidding me? I almost lost my life. I thought I'd lost the money. I almost lost my mind. They tried to steal me. They tried to kill me. I jumped. I ran." "I know. You did it all for our family. Don't worry. You did the right thing. Come home. I'm waiting for you. It's all over now." "Fuck you, Monty. Get it? Fuck you." Monty was waiting for me at home. They let my father out a day later. They were able to prove his innocence. I didn't expect that from my aunt, but my mother figured it out. And that's why she came up with such a plan to make a profit, albeit a cruel one. But the police involved the best agents. Everything was faked so that the money allegedly wanted to take my dad's competitors. It turned out to be a setup. That's easy for me to say now, but back then I was about 70 years old, I swear. That's the crazy day I had. What would you do for your family? In fact, what crazy things have you ever done for your folks? Tell me about it. And at the bottom of the video, the next storyteller will pick out the best stories and show them at the end of the video, okay?
Hello everyone, my name is Carl. I am a full 15 years old. My father is the president of a very large company in the United States. Our family is billionaires, but I work as a waiter. Do you want to know why? Now I'll tell you everything, and while you listen, watch and do not forget to immediately subscribe to this channel. Let's start with the fact that when I was born, we were poor. Yes, it is hard to believe. Now it is customary to think that if you are poor, you will never achieve anything. But my father is the best example of what it is possible to earn yourself, and he did it. When he and my mother got married, they had nothing. No place to live, no car. And the day came when it was necessary to pay the bills, including paying for the apartment. There was nothing. My mother had a little me. She could not go to work. Then my father, desperate, went out on the street and just went to shops and cafes, offering the services of a cleaner, a salesman, yes, anyone. He did not disdain work, and his mother respected him for it. That day he came back late at night, but managed to earn money, and although Dad was terribly tired, he always found time to play with me. So they lived for several years, until one day, Dad came as a cleaner in a large company. He was mopping the floors after the directors' meeting. One of the men kicked Dad's mop and called him a laborer. My father was a proud man, but with a brain. He could have hit him hard, but he knew he had a family to feed, so he straightened up and said something to the man that the others didn't even comment on. Dad told that man that the project they were working on would fail just because its concept was built wrong. They were going to build houses for the poor and sell them. Dad himself lived in such conditions and knew perfectly well what amenities were really needed. The guy just laughed and said he wasn't going to listen to the janitor's opinion. The idea of the project is beautiful, Gillies, that it is led by a person who does not understand and is not educated, my father said. He turned on Dad. He was hurt in front of his supervisor, and that offended him the most. Then the most important director intervened. He reassured his subordinate, then turned to his father. He asked him a couple of questions, and Dad answered. He just said his opinion and gave a couple of free tips. The director asked why my father worked as a cleaner if he was good at business. Then Dad said that a real businessman does not disdain any dirty work. It's hard to believe, but my father was put on probation after the dialogue. That subordinate was angry. He was furious. The very next day, my father came to train. He immediately showed himself. The internship lasted 3 long months, but it was paid. This money was enough for a living. After a while, Dad was hired for a long and hard work. It was a holiday for our family. Over the years, my father rose higher and higher. I grew up, we already bought our own house, 2 cars, and my mother gave birth to another daughter, my sister. And then we just got rich, until my father started running the company himself, which he came to as a cleaner. Despite the money, connections, and position, Mariana and I, my little sister, were brought up simply, without being tied to money. If you need money, go to work, Dad would say. Of course, we didn't need anything. We ate, we went to great schools, we had everything. But if I needed my own money, my father sent me to work. So in the summer, I worked part-time with neighbors, and then with this money, my friends and I went camping or went to parties. It didn't bother me that I was working. However, many people around were outraged and considered my father's upbringing ruthless. He asked them to mind their own business. I didn't like working at first. At first, I just wanted to ask my mother for money. She gave it to me secretly until my father noticed. He strictly forbade spoiling Mariana and me, and my little sister was offended with my father, and so was I. And once he came home earlier than usual, he sat me down at the table and said that there was an important conversation. Dad then explained that he could no longer support us and that everything we had would have to be sold. My mother almost had a heart attack. She was very worried and only asked what to do now. My father replied that now it was time for me to help him. I also had to earn money. That day I could hardly sleep because I could not believe that we were now poor. I suddenly remembered again that feeling when every cent counts, when it is necessary to save everything, wait for wages, and sometimes go to bed hungry. I felt sick. I saw my mother's condition and felt sorry for her. And now we had Mariana, who had never understood what it meant to sleep on the floor in cheap apartments. I pulled myself together and made a plan of action. I understood that since I was a man, I had to take care of my family. My father did everything he could. I came to school, sat out classes, and then quickly ran to a cafe near the house and got a part-time job there. The receptionist was surprised. He didn't understand why I was working. I didn't want to explain for a long time. I just said that we needed money. He accepted me with no work experience and started the same day. It was hard. That night I came home exhausted, tired, and hungry. I ate quickly, did my homework, and went to bed. The next day, I was back at work after school. So 2 months have passed. I gave my entire salary to my parents and kept a small part for myself. My father and mother were proud of me, and I knew I was doing the right thing. Christmas was coming. I studied well, and so I finished my studies before the winter break with good results. Christmas morning began with unexpected surprises. Mom and Dad came into my room and handed me a gift box. There were car keys. I did not immediately understand what this means, and Dad said, "You deserve a gift. Now I see that you are my son and a worthy man." I didn't know what was going on. Then my parents took me outside, where a car was waiting for me. In all the excitement, I almost choked. I bombarded my parents with questions about where the money came from, and when we went home, Dad admitted that he had invented the bankruptcy situation. I wondered why, and then my father said his favorite phrase, "A real businessman does not disdain dirty work." At that moment, I was filled with a sense of joy and pride in myself at the same time. I didn't let the family down. It was important. I accepted the gift, and my father said that I could quit my job for the duration of my studies. but I was so used to making money that I said I'd work for a while. Another year has passed since then. I still work in that cafe as a waiter and I like my job. People around me no longer laugh at me. They show respect. Now I go to work by car, and I divide my salary for the needs of my home and family. I think I'm doing everything right. What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments and do not forget to put likes.